We go. Hello, Tom. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Guy. How are you?
Very, very good. First things first. Where are you dialing in from?
I live in a little village called Stenning in West Sussex. I'm about 10 miles north of Brighton, just off the south coast.
Fantastic. Well, we've obviously known each other for probably about a year, and you've been creating content and working with Blue Earth in lots of different ways and shapes and forms.
Mhm.
So I know a little bit about you, but our listeners might not. So to kick it all off, would you be okay just to give us a bit of an introduction into who Tom is, just to give us a little bit of an insight of your career that's led up to where you are now, and then highlight the sort of project that we're going to come on to, which is Climate Acceptance Studio.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm like half of my career has been spent in business and half in creative projects. And I have been more on the side of being like a project leader or a producer or a director rather than a performer or a writer. And if I'm being honest, the business side of things was simply to fund the creative side of things. And I wanted to make as much money as possible to fund my various creative projects. So I've written and/or directed and/or produced 17 plays or shows. I ran a radio station for a while. I've made some films. And what's the quickest way that you can make money quickly? And it's sales. I've done lots of business development and sales. I've worked for everyone from startup SaaS founders going through that journey to profitability, all the way up to like big multinationals like Thomson Reuters. And I settled down into running telesales teams. I've trained hundreds of salespeople. And then at the back end, I ended up working in consulting and I was running their thought leadership events and I was tracking down important people to get meetings. So then my bosses would go in and pitch for like £500,000 worth of business or what have you. So I'm really good at networking and I understand how to track down people. And I'm also like really hot on sales and I'm a bit of a nerd and I like my data and I like finding sort of patterns in there in order to produce profitability. On the other side, though, I love telling stories and like organizing groups of creative people together and, making something sort of happen visually and creatively. That's my background. In 2019, like the weight of evidence of the climate crisis came to bear so much. I've got kids that I just thought, like, why do anything else? Decided to devote myself entirely to mitigating the climate and nature crisis. And I sort of took my sales skills and I transferred it into communications. And I did a whole bunch of things, set up media spokespeople to speak to the media. But I ended up running the comms for COP28 in Dubai for a big international NGO called Healthcare Without Harm.
Right.
And it was a great project. And I sort of did loads of stuff. I organised their events, did the PR. They launched a new website. I wrote the copy, all that sort of stuff. But just because I knew how to do it, when I was there, I just made some films with my iPhone and I had my pro editor back home. We cut together some content and we had like our spokespeople there talking about their messaging points and their advocacy. And like the reaction was like unbelievable. I got praised by the board. And I just thought, okay, there's something here. So I stopped. And for a couple of months, I did lots of research into this international NGO sector. So I don't know if people know there are all these organizations out there that are funded by Gates and Bezos and Skoll and IKEA. And although they
Yeah.
are not for profits, they've got like tens, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue every year. Did
Mm.
loads of analysis, and I realized that like video as a communications tool was being sort of scandalously underused by this sector. So I thought I sort of found a gap in the market. And meanwhile, it's just one of these sort of beautiful moments of happenstance. My amazing business partner, Nathaniel Walters, who's this videographer, editor of 30 years experience, who I'd worked with on a bunch of projects in the past, just happened to sort of get back in touch with me and say, "Hey, Tom, like I'm looking for some work now. Got any work?" And I went, "Well, actually, I've got an idea." And then we sat down and then we like absolutely got on like a house on fire and realized that we could do this together and like bring video content at scale quickly to this market. And so, yeah, so the venture was born. And that happened sort of 2 Aprils ago.
Brilliant. Okay, so you went to COP as a consultant, saying, "Look, I can help you curate the stories, do the PR, find all the right people, use all your skill set that you've just explained." But the piece that everyone loved was that video element, where you did a sort of super simple recording on your phone, which everyone's got a phone in their pocket these days, so we can all be filmmakers. But the magic there was that you were able to get the content, send it straight back to an editor, and then turn it round super quickly. And that's the bit that the board then goes, amazing. How on earth have you done that? And you go, well, it's actually quite, I've got all the pieces of the puzzle here, and I made it happen. And it is, we get that. And Freddie from our marketing team, like the
Mhm.
buzz and excitement we get out of seeing a video turned around, and we've worked really closely with you, that you go, right, well, that happened actually like 3 hours ago, and now it's already edited and it's out. And it's just, if you've got the process in place. So just coming on to what you're doing with the Climate Acceptance Studio, that was the penny drop moment that you go,
Yeah.
right, we can get good content, we can send it back through a process, and we can turn this content around really quickly and help people get good content out there fast.
And also crucially to this specific market. So it was both like the service and also the market fit at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. So I see where the seeds were planted, and you've used your experience. You've brought in a co-founder at the right moment. So just bring us up to speed then with what Climate Acceptance Studio is, as a business.
Okay, cool. So we're now a year later. We've just actually filed our first set of accounts, and we're there. I think we really understand our product and our process, and we also crucially have worked out how to sell it as well. But we have a two-pronged approach, which is sort of top down and bottom up. So our watchwords are as high quality as possible, bearing in mind the kit that we've got, but also crucially turning it around quickly. So whilst we can, we don't compete with the production companies who go out and produce this beautiful work of art that might take a long time. We're about like content at scale quickly. We're arguing with our clients that you need to be releasing a video on your channels every single week in order to sort of create a buzz and a groundswell of opinion. The whole like YouTuber cliche of consistency is king. That we're trying to bring that into, well, first the NGO market, but latterly that's like the for-profit startup purpose-led founder market as well. We have high quality cinema cameras. We're nimble. So we're just about to go off for New York Climate Action Week. We're going to go to Brazil for COP30. I've done some work with like international NGOs, United Nations, so I can get what's called blue zone passes. And for those who don't know, that's like a sort of the inner sanctum access, which is quite valuable. I've got some
Yeah.
good partnerships there. But then when we're there, we shoot cinema quality, but then we turn it around within a day because we have an editor on site. It retains that sort of, high quality. But then on top of that, and this is what we really want to start developing this year, there are a million people in this world, 2 million, 5 million people in this world who are taking action on the climate nature axis. A crisis. That's everything from like founding a business to campaigning to advocacy. And they just, people just don't know this is happening. And it's crazy because everyone in their hands is holding, this is a TV broadcast recording studio that we're all holding it in our hands. We've just started. It's really exciting. It's working. We're now rolling out training courses to train people how to use their smartphones to produce the best possible video content. And then we've got our app, which is coincidentally the same app as the app that we're recording this podcast on right now.
Yes.
We train them up, but then they then go out and they record stuff. They record their story. They tell their story. And then the footage comes down through the pipes to our video editors, and we can then cut content together for them. Like everything from social media through to explainer videos, helping with fundraising, stuff on their website, maybe internal communication videos, and everything in between. It's been about, 25% of our revenue so far, but that's the scalable business opportunity. And like what's sort of beautiful is that when we go to these international climate conferences and do our like high level recording, we are surrounded by potential customers. Whilst we're making money and we're recording, we're also networking and winning new business at the same time. It's a real sort of pure delivery/marketing business model. And it seems to be working well.
So to break that down as a case study, I don't know, let's use a real example. I'm going to go to New York Climate Week, likely with Will, business partner, turns out brother as well. We're working together, and we want to try and build a bit of a story and a narrative of what we're doing there, why we're doing it, who we're working with. I could then record Will, do a little interview. It comes in on the app, and I know that as soon as I click save, you've got the content. You can flip it, turn it into a 30-second piece of content. You'd send that into our marketing team. They can then post it. So effectively, I've got the ability to be the videographer and then know that that content will get turned around super quickly, and then we've got it out on our channels, and that is all about speed and consistency. Is that
And
the
that's
right
like a
context?
really big market. Like there are 100, 1,000 climate and nature related conferences out there each year, and also like the environmental impact of not wanting the carbon from the planes and flying there. We're now exploring like going out and saying, look, if you're visiting a conference, we can do an amazing video diary for you there and really amplify your work. You've gone to all the effort of like traveling to Abu Dhabi to Water Week, and then it's like it's all gone. It's all gone. You haven't recorded what you've done. You've not amplified it, and there's all of this amazing sort of marketing opportunity that's being missed, and we're sort of plugging that gap.
There we go. The only bit that we need to just make that is tough is that we need to get better as being our best version of a TV presenter, but that comes over time. And I'm sure you could probably do some coaching and some tips. But I've always found it, I don't know. I'm quite confident in speaking to people in one-on-one scenarios like this, or pitching to a boardroom, or standing up on stage and pitching to 500 people. But as soon as you put a camera in my face, I stutter. I'm thinking about every word. I'm thinking about every blink, and I've always found it a challenge. But I don't know. Cameras do seem to be wafted in my face every now and then. That you do get more and more used to it over time. But I hand it over to your editors. You can make me look brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, we can like when we do like the high class stuff with the cameras, we shoot two angles, and we do that for two reasons. One is because it's just more visually interesting cutting between angles, but also like once you do that, you can patch together the first half of one sentence with the second half of the other, and make it
Yeah.
seem to the audience like it's one continuous thing. And you can edit out the ums and the ers and the stumbles and do you mind if we do those agains? It's really easy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Talk to me about the kind of the business model that just sits within that. Where do you make money? How do you make money? I think, where is, let's lean in on the scalability of this, because there isn't the amount of content. You go anywhere, it sort of blows my mind. I feel quite tuned into it. You go to any sort of event or any cool location or any hot tourist hotspot, and it's just like phones are flipping everywhere. But I sort of think, and we're all of our yeah, well, all of our phones are just full videos, and you're like, what am I ever going to do with that? But I sort of in my mind think one day I might make this lovely edit of us having great time somewhere. But this idea of yeah, where this scalable element of what you're building. Talk to me about the kind of the business model that would sit behind that. How would a company engage with you, and where would you start making money?
Well, I mean, the first thing to say is that we're already making money. We're making money from like the traditional cameras on sticks, as we say, recording it, turning it around quickly, and that's quite sort of corporate videos. We're at a conference and what have you, and we've done that because we know how to do it, and so therefore we've got this sort of base level of revenue that we know is going to come in as a consequence of that. We've got
Yeah,
that stability there, but when it comes to the scalable stuff, where we've worked out a payment structure that's a bit like a software as a service,
yeah,
because we want to get to the point where organizations are comfortable with the fact that they're going to be releasing regular video content. So there's this surveys on marketing statistics say that the number one reason why people don't use video, and by the way, 90% of organizations think that they should be using video, but
mm,
the number one reason is that 37% just simply don't know where to start, as well as being experts on actually cutting it and image structure and telling a good story and all that sort of stuff. We've also developed like video series. So we want to get to the stage where we get a founder or we get a spokesperson, we get a campaigner or we get a project lead, and they come into our virtual studio. We would work with the comms team in advance. There'd be like a questionnaire, and we'd just chat very much like we're doing in this conversation right now. And we'd record for 20, 30, 40 minutes. And that conversation is to a certain extent curated. And we know in advance, because we work the comms team, that various messaging points have to be hit. But that like interview is a treasure trove. It's the base level from which we can rip it apart, and then we can put in loads of content, and we can overlay photographs they've got, other images they've got. We've got a stock library of 20,000 pieces of video content. We've got our own database of stock footage that we're building all the time, and then we take it off their hands and they forget about it, and then we cut it all together, and then we come back to them and we go through a round of changes, and we go from there. Ultimately, it's like, if you can give us 4 hours a month that 4 hours a month is like, who is the spokesperson for that month or two spokespeople? Like, and what do you want to talk about? What's that questionnaire? We think that whole process of coordination, and then maybe an hour at the end to review our films. We can take everything else off your hands, and suddenly that pain point, people know that they should be doing video, but they don't know where to start, is like relieved. And then they pay us a regular income out of that. But the challenge normally with video production companies is that people come in and make one film, right? And it's amazing, and they might make a lot of money and might have a healthy profit, but then that's it. And they go, bye, we've made that film, and it's this constant sort of chasing for new business. So there's this principle of creating, like, the classic business success story of a recurring revenue by going through this process. And we can do that because costs kept down, because we're not having expensive cameras, because they're doing it all through their smartphone.
Okay, and so that, I think you might have said it, but video production as a service is kind of where you're heading with this. That you kind of start
Exactly.
working with a client, you've then made it super easy for them. You are there, that you're there to receive any content they create, and you turn it around and flip it, and they can use it immediately. Just to bring this to life, just to talk in case studies, who are some of the clients that you're working with at the moment?
Oh, wow. Okay. So we do a lot of work with the We Mean Business Coalition.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys know them. And as well as doing all the stuff at conferences, they had a partnership with Kerry's when they wanted to launch a new sustainability report. So they came into our virtual studio and we did a couple of interviews, and then we overlaid that with reports and graphs, and we released that. I worked with a big campaign last year called Big Shift Global, and we had loads. I think we did about 16 interviews coming into our virtual studio. From that, we made 52 1-minute videos in 2 months, which they released over a sort of steady stream of time to sort of create the buzz of interest. Green Climate Fund is the people who are in charge of distributing the money that comes out of the Paris Agreement. So they dole out $17 billion worth of funding to 400 or 500 climate mitigation projects around the world. The CEO recently visited the floods in South Sudan. Pretty tragic there. We trained up the comms person how to use their smartphone. They went out there, they shot the content, and we then put together the video. And actually, it got really, really great reception online. It got lots and lots of engagement. Because I think this is also like, I'm really, really interested as well in like effective climate communication. If you look at the social science, polar bears and ice caps doesn't work. It's been proven not to work. Similarly, like parts per million, amount of carbon in the atmosphere, all that, all those stats doesn't work, turns people off. If you want to inspire people to like take action, there needs to be like personal stories on the ground of action that people can connect with emotionally. And
Yep.
as well as just providing a means to provide content, we're also providing content that is really effective in communicating the climate crisis, because ultimately, we're coordinating with that person out there on the field with their smartphone, to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think the picture can tell 1,000 words. Is the storytelling is such a big part of the narrative, and when used effectively, can highlight a problem properly, or it can build hope in solutions. We've done a lot of work over the years with Water Bear, that obviously they're at the other end
Oh, I
of the
love
scale
Water Bear. They're amazing.
on content, but some of their stories, or even their show reels, just like literally spine tingling. And then you're just looking, just going, you watch these films and you're like, I've got to do something about that. I can't sit here. And you guys are at the other end, where you're just going, there is a lot of stories, there's a lot of action, and you're highlighting and enabling these people to get this content out there. So that's really painting a bit of a picture. I want to move into kind of another sort of area, which is kind of talking about the challenges and the opportunities. So obviously this is a startup. You've been making a huge amount of progress. You're coming at this kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, at the agency space, but just with a slightly nuanced version, where it kind of plays into today's version of content and speed, and how do we get it out there, and turning everyone into filmmakers with an editor in their back pocket.
Yeah.
So what's been the kind of main challenge kind of that you've faced coming through this, of bringing something new to the market?
Well, two things. Firstly, like, no brand really to start
Yeah.
off with. So we were relying I suppose, on my skills that I had in the previous life of like tracking down people and getting them to pay attention and politely harassing people until, until they engage and have that first meeting. But having said that, especially when it comes to the conferences, like the challenge is also the opportunity. So these big conferences, which I'm sure you're aware of as a conference organizer yourself, everybody leaves it to the last minute. In terms of like, New York Climate Action Week is ultimately like, a gathering of 600 events. And I have had bookings that have taken place with, I think, 12 hours to go. Only with 12 hours to go, do they actually know the venue? Do we actually know where we're sending our cameras? New York last year, we thought we're onto something here. We took entrepreneurial risk. We invested all this money in an Airbnb in Manhattan and plane rides and all that malarkey. And then we're sitting there
Yeah.
going, we haven't made any sales. But then they suddenly all came in with like sort of two or 1 weeks to go. And indeed, this year it's following the same pattern. But this year it's easier because we've got our established client base and they're all
Yeah.
coming back to us for the same time. Like the last minute nature of those conference bookings and the fact that near the end it becomes a bum fight, and inevitably like everybody wants to book you on the same day. You have to like turn down business, and that's really, really gutting. And then everyone wants to book you on a Monday, and on Thursday it's a wasteland, and it's just frustrating. And I just you just want your clients' needs to all be evenly spaced out along the week that you're there. Scheduling is like a massive challenge.
Yeah.
But we're getting better at it. We've got better.
But there's a nice calendar for you, isn't there? You look New York Climate Week, COP, London Climate Action Week, Blue Earth Summit, probably bigger than them all.
Yeah, the
But
Oceans Conference was
they're
amazing
all.
for us this year.
Sorry?
The Oceans Conference was amazing for us this year.
Yeah, was that the one in Nice?
Yeah, which I think makes sense, right? Because it's more visual, and all those people that used to be underwater photographers.
Yeah. So there's that following that model as a path just to go. We're going to turn up, and we're gonna be supporting all these clients. There's a huge amount of business in there for you guys. But yeah, I think it feels like that challenge of having a new product and creating a brand, like that feels like a hurdle that you fast overcome, and I can kind of firsthand endorse your hustle in when you were trying to kind of work with us and kind of knocking on the door until the door bashed down, and then you're in, and now we're hooked on the Kool-Aid because you've started working with us, and Freddie from our marketing teams loves working with you because he just gets good content straight away off of everyone. It becomes something that we now need, which makes total sense, and it's not just a need for need's sake. It's actually very useful. And you're saving time and money, even though there's a cost. What's the opportunity with it?
Buzz as well. I hope creating buzz as well. Like I've made 43 videos for you, and I can see that you're releasing them on your channels like a couple a week, and I'm hoping that just keeps the energy and the momentum going between the forum and the summit for you guys.
100%, yeah. And you've got interesting people, the really high-profile people that have come to our events saying really interesting things that we can release, and it's important. It's no point just putting any content out. It needs to be good. It needs to be different. It needs to have a message, and you've played a serious role in that. But yeah, moving on. We've solved your challenge. I don't think that's a challenge anymore. I think you guys have really set yourselves out as something different. What do you see as the opportunity with what you're building? Because there is part of me thinking, well, what you're creating is extremely scalable across just content in general, but you've kind of pinned yourself into the climate space. But that seems very intentional, and I'm not saying that in any way.
It is. I mean, obviously, it is, and there's two important points here. One is to simply, I want to devote the rest of the life to, saving the world for my children, and so I have that like real deep sort of purpose and passion behind it all. But secondly, I think the types of organizations that are tackling the climate nature crisis also lend themselves to video content as well. They tend to be like disruptors. They tend to be people out there in the world doing stuff. Although we're not clients with them yet, they've given me permission to say this. One of your other alumni, Earth Cubs, we're in advanced conversations now with Earth Cubs. They're amazing. They want to teach 1 billion children about climate change by 2030, and at the moment they've got like a video production company that makes them lots of animated stuff to do that, but like we're coming in to help with their marketing. So they have got like 100, 1,000 satisfied teachers and students going through that process. Through our smartphone process, we're going to like train up a bunch of their ambassadors, and then we can actually be in the classroom, but not in the classroom, just through their smartphone, to produce lots of like impact stories and case studies for them.
Brilliant.
That will enable them to, take their business onto the next level, and give like a sort of behind the scenes snapshot and sort of make it real and stop it just being about, these wonderful animations that teach kids about climate change.
Amazing. Well, nothing makes me happier that when you hear our members working together, and it's happening more and more because we've got an amazing portfolio of different companies, from energy companies, Earth Cubs, which is a media storytelling company, you guys, which is kind of video production, and so on and so forth. We can kind of becomes a wicked network of people that are kind of striving for the same thing. They want to solve problems, but they want to make money doing that, and that's probably what we've got such an epic opportunity in our generation to build businesses that can be commercially successful but have such a positive legacy, and hopefully leave the world in a better place for our kids, which is inspiring for everyone. Where are you now with the business, just to kind of give us some context, and then we'll move into kind of where do you think this can go? What's the kind of the North Star and the mission that gets it going? But let's not jump too far ahead. Let's start with where you are now, to give a bit of context.
Well, I'm just about to enter the busiest part of the year. In fact, it's already begun. I'm in between before and after this podcast recording. I am currently, for New York, I think I have about somewhere between 20 and 24 organizations who are thinking about booking me. It's about like judging that balance between, you've got to book now, otherwise someone else is going to get in for that slot, but not being overly aggressive because they'll just scare them off. It's like it's finding that balance and making sure that we can maximize revenue to make sure that we're keeping everybody happy. What's really encouraging is that the vast majority, at least 80% of the people we worked with in New York last year, are rehiring us for this year. We've got that base level, but now new people are coming on board. COP30 is going to be like really, really big for us because that's our market. And also there are these big accommodation problems in COP30 this year, but I've actually sorted my accommodation with my team. I'm being ambitious. I'm actually sending 2 crews, not 1, there this year, and we've already got some big bids out. There are these 2 big bids that come in which will just sort everything. And it's not just the revenue, it's the fact that the challenge comes in juggling so many clients. And if we just have 2 big ones in terms of logistics and communications and stuff, we just got to keep 2 people happy. That's a lot better. So our focus has to be on that. But then, and that will basically create a whole bunch of revenue that hopefully will set us up for 3 to 6 months. But then inevitably we have to get the online video production, smartphone training thing really ramped up and really going from sort of December onwards. What's encouraging is that the smartphone training courses are really taking off. At the moment, we're just doing group bookings. And we've had 4 so far. We had an organisation yesterday want to book 20 people in their organisation for smartphone training, which is really exciting for us. And ultimately, after the smartphone training, they can just, okay, bye. But then obviously we're hoping they then come back to us and they engage on the virtual studio process, and we can go from there and produce lots of content for them. I want to get away from just taking group bookings and start to have set times for trainers, start doing mass marketing, start bringing that out there. And I want to really get going with mass marketing. We haven't done that yet. At the moment, it's all been through my background in BD, approaching people one by one. And so therefore I'm being selective, and so therefore my hit rate is very high. But obviously it's also super, super duper time consuming. I mean, what is encouraging is that we're starting to get people finding out about us through the network, and we're just starting organically to get people approaching us, but we haven't really advertised yet. We haven't done an e-shot yet. So that's something that I really sort of want to get going into sort of December, January, February, to really sort of, get the scale going.
Fantastic. And how have you funded the business to date?
Me.
Okay.
Me.
All fully bootstrapped.
It's fully bootstrapped by me.
Yeah.
And so now is the time I'm almost at a stage where I can generate enough revenue to pay myself an income. I've not had an income since I've got it all going. Yeah, I mean, everyone's really sweet. I've got a really lovely team. Everyone's like trusting me. Everyone's on, even getting paid by the hour or the day, or just a sort of a set monthly rate, depending on who it is. one of the main reasons why I want to raise the money is so I can get everybody onto permanent contracts. We can bring like stability to the organization, and these people that I've been working with who've just shown me an amazing amount of trust. I can repay that trust with a permanent contract. And obviously once I've got a permanent contract, I can start making like more strategic long-term decisions to sort of as the basis for the scaling.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, so if you've been bootstrapped to date, but I know that that sort of idea of a funding round is on the horizon. What is it that you would be raising funds for beyond? Is it predominantly kind of bringing the team onto contracts? Are you investing into the tech that enables you to kind of get the content out quickly and scale that way? What are the main elements that you're kind of raising for?
Well, yeah, it's operational stuff. I mean, it's staff. My business model, like we're a virtual company. We're dotted all over the world. So my head of projects is in the States. My business partner's in Spain. My business development guys in France. My social media managers in Egypt. And I've deliberately set it up like that because our client base is spread all over the world. We exist on Google Workspace and Salesforce. Actually, my infrastructure costs are quite low, but as well as bringing like stability to the company, I need more people to facilitate contracts. Once mass marketing starts, with the credibility that I've built already, I'm confident that business will start coming in. But once business starts coming in, I have to have people to fulfill and deliver that, mainly like video editors and project managers. Ultimately it's about scaling quickly, but I need some time, a bit of runway to find the right person, get them in, get them trained up before they take over the work. So ultimately the plan is that there's going to be an account manager and a project manager in charge of 50 clients. 50 clients are going to basically have sort of 2 touch points, and then beyond that there's our army of freelance editors and videographers in the background as well. It's about like managing that. However, there is another thing that we're developing as well. I mean, it's very early stage, but I'm making the contacts. So again, going back to my real interest in effective climate communication, and it really frustrates me when even really established organizations are still, releasing this content about polar bears and ice caps. It just doesn't work. I want to work with like social scientists to work out like what are all the research that's been done. It's all been done like the choice of words, the type of story, the choice of imagery, so that we would then develop an IP protected proprietary tool, so that when a client comes to us with an idea or a script or what have you, and we work in the early stages, it can go through this tool, and at the other end we can give them a climate communications effectiveness score. Ultimately, we know that the content we produce obeys the social science in terms of picture and imagery and storytelling, so that they know that they're not only getting high quality content, they're getting high quality content backed by the social science behind effective climate communication. That's going to be my Series A. So the seed is just to really establish this business model and turn it into the cash cow that I know it's going to be. The Series A is going to be that tool, and then that tool can be applicable beyond video production. It can go into research, it can go into political advocacy, it can go into a whole bunch of areas to make sure that we're effectively communicating the climate crisis to inspire action and sort of tip the balance in social change, and we can have that sort of great Star Trek the next generation future that we all hope for.
Yeah, amazing. Well, that's super clear, and I think the bit that's coming across very well is that in my mind, you're doing 2 things. You're making content creation and storytelling easier and better. And if the more that you can kind of, the easiest side comes from the fact that, I think the stat was 37% don't know where to start, but we've all got a phone in our pocket. Actually, give people the confidence to get the phone out, record the content, and have a place to send it, so that it's turned around into something that is publishable. And then better if you're then investing in the understanding and looking at behavioral science and understanding how we can better land messaging, then the content that is going to come out of this system is going to be better. And that is probably an area that's underspoken about. We mentioned people like Water Bear and Earth Cubs. The power of storytelling is so powerful and plays such a big role in highlighting problems, presenting solutions, that the impact that you can go on and have is huge.
It's all about story.
Yeah. I think I've got a really clear picture on kind of everything that you're building, why you're building it, and yeah, it's it is infinitely scalable, especially if you lean into the tech side of things, and then it becomes more of an educational piece, and then obviously you can play an amazing role in that. So no doubt it's an exciting time ahead. I don't think there's ever going to be a shortage of supply of content. I don't think this message is going to go anywhere fast. So the opportunity in front of Climate Acceptance Studio is huge. So hats off to you for everything you've built so
Thank
far.
you.
Thank you from a personal perspective for the support that you've offered us. You know, a lot of what you're talking about, we've been on the receiving end, and it's, you know, been a very positive journey. And as a result, it was a no-brainer to welcome you into Blue Earth Ventures as a member and support you as a genuine solution that can kind of, you know, our whole thing is transforming the way the world works, and your role in that is to help more people tell their story in a coherent, better way. So it's brilliant to be working with you on that context. When we wrap things up, I always like to kind of finish on someone else. So we always look to our guests to come in and give us another business or founder, or combined, ideally someone that you know that's in your world that is really inspiring you.
Well, I've thought about this long and hard, and I don't actually know them that well yet. Although I have made a video for them, and we have got a meeting coming up. But it's 1% for the planet.
Oh, brilliant.
I think they're amazing, and I can see the logo right behind you. And I
Yep.
think that's absolutely the attitude, right? So I am, you know, a good capitalist, I suppose. I believe, you know, I believe in the power of capitalism as a force for good, and it has unfortunately recently become a force for bad. But they've got that balance just right, you know. And so, you know, B Corp's great, and I love B Corp as well. And indeed, when I've got the resources, one of the things I'm going to do is become a B Corp myself. I'm pretty certain I qualify. But 1% is different, because 1% is like putting your money where your mouth is. And it's saying that, you know, by giving away, you know, 1% of your revenue each month and having that kite mark, you will end up positioning yourself as a good capitalist, and so therefore you're in the market trends. And so, you know, by the way, 89% of the people in the world want their governments to do more on climate change. So it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense that people don't realize what's going on and they don't want to take action. They absolutely do. And so it's a really sensible business strategy as well, both for 1% and also for all the people who join that community.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think
Well,
they've got it just right.
yeah, well, great. I'm glad you've picked up on that. We've absolutely loved working with them, and they're very forward thinking in the sense that it's in their interest to support brilliant companies doing good things grow, because as their revenues grow, then obviously their contributions to environmental projects grows. You know, the 1% kind of grows. So we've been loving working with them, supporting their members as much as possible in growing their revenues with our ventures arm. And then also there's going to be a lot of work that we'll be doing on championing their environmental projects at our event. Kate Williams, who's the chief exec there, is such an inspiration and has done such an amazing job over the last 10 or so years in building out that network. But I really feel like they've only scratched the surface. It's such a simple idea. Like you said, it enables people to put their money where their mouth is, and we've absolutely loved working with them. It is pointing businesses in the right direction. Yeah, great shout. We haven't had that one yet, but it makes a lot of sense. But I'm going to wrap it up there, Tom. Thank you so much for
Okay.
joining us. Thank you for everything you've brought to Blue Earth to date, and yeah, really looking forward to kind of introducing you to as many investors as possible, and of course potential corporate clients, because we can more than vouch for your services. I think what you're doing is really interesting, and is an interesting take on a market, and there's so much content and so many stories that need to be told, that you're in a great place to capitalize on that as well.
That's brilliant. So kind. Thank you so much.
Cheers.